Welcome to World at Work TV. I'm Allison Avalos, and I'm joined here today by Zahir Ladhani, Rena Rasch, and Ben Thompson with IBM. And we're talking about the evolution of reward practices and their work trend survey. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zahir, can you start off by talking about the background behind this research and why it was a topic that you chose?
If you look at evolution of humanity and evolution of work, in work, it used to be about employees getting their sustenance from work. And then it evolved in the present day to having sustenance plus engagement. But where it's moving to is employees are looking for not just their sustenance and engagement, they're looking for their identity. And work is identifying the person and bringing dignity to themselves. So if you take that with the evolution of technology, the research of behavioral science that is coming through, and the added ability to now look at huge sums of data, brought on this research to look at what is going on with employees out there. And therefore, what are the four key things that are happening? Social, mobility, the rise of the independent worker, and the more ability for employees versus top-down versus a ground-up management style. That's what brought on the research coming through.
So Rena, what are some of the key findings from the research?
Well, I think, really high level, one of the most interesting findings when we looked at traditional versus alternative workers, we found that alternative was actually pretty common. About 48% of our workers in our study had alternative arrangements. So it's almost like the new normal. Another really interesting finding that we observed was this sort of trade-off between flexibility and security. So, Zahir talked about the evolution of work. I think one path down that road is this sort of changing psychological contract between employee and employer. And as we sort of move away from a traditional cradle to grave kind of arrangement, people become a little bit more comfortable with the idea that, okay, I'm not going to be at this company forever, and are willing to compromise on that to have greater flexibility in what they do, how they do it, and when they do it.
Ben, what does this mean for total rewards in terms of attraction and retention, but also the employee value proposition?
I think what it means is that while traditionally pay has been very important and continues to be important, the reality is that it's incumbent on the manager and the corporation to articulate and understand the total value proposition. What do they have for the employee? What can they offer? As Zahir had mentioned, it's more beyond just how much you're getting paid and what you're getting paid for. Is the company, is your manager taking care of all of the other things that you value? And I think as it relates to that, it is certainly more critical for managers to take an assessment and understand what their employees value, whether it's across pay, career opportunity, workforce flexibility, and then ultimately it also presents multiple opportunities throughout the year for a manager to have a moment with their employee or multiple moments over the course of the year to help understand and reinforce that value.
So Zahir, how much of this future trend then is here and now?
It has begun. Are we there? Not yet, but it's begun. If you look at what retail stores do for us as consumers, they can target and understand us individually rather than the masses. Similarly, we as organizations have to target our employees as individuals, as Ben mentioned. So it's, the B2 consumer concept, the B2C, I think we have to go to a B2E concept, and that's starting to happen now with the availability of all the data and the social aspect of the organizations. So it has begun.
So how has IBM adapted to this in terms of your work environment, Ben?
Well, first, the change in our workforce has happened over a course of time. And I would say the adaptation has kind of taken effect in two ways. At an enterprise level, the corporation has invested in collaboration technologies to help with the global nature of the work we do. In addition, it has also provided opportunities for our managers and employees to have a continuous dialogue around the work itself. And so at an individual level, again, while the work has changed, it also requires the manager and the employee to understand what changes in the work requires a different approach to how the employee is being supported.
And was the research a big driver in that, or is that something that's been happening at IBM for a while?
I would say the research is actually confirming and complementary to what we've done over time. It's actually good to see the fact that we have different types of workers with different needs. The impact of the research, I think, just validates the fact that it's incumbent on the manager to have that dialogue with their employees to understand what they need and what they value.
So Ben, in terms of this evolution, what are some of the key challenges that IBM has run into, and how have you overcome them?
That's a good question. So at an individual level, sometimes there can be limitations in terms of what levers you can pull. For example, if a manager and employee are having a discussion around a flexible work environment, certainly a key question the manager would need to ask is this the type of work that lends itself to a remote environment? The second is, as we are becoming a more socially integrated enterprise, the use of social and collaboration technologies continue to evolve. And with that presents challenges in terms of changing behavior. So it's certainly necessary to be very good in terms of your communication, not only to your employees but your managers. I'd also say it's equally important to provide examples. So situational use cases can be very beneficial in terms of helping the adoption of these technologies and changing the behaviors. And the last thing, and most importantly, I would say, is be patient. These things certainly take time, and you need the discipline to come back and look at these to see if they're getting the traction you need or if a different approach is necessary.
Well, and by definition, it's an evolution. It's not an overnight thing. So Zahir, any final thoughts?
I would just conclude by saying organizations need to start thinking about their talent and the talent needs of the future. As Ben mentioned, are we looking at our employees individually? Are we attracting the right talent? Are we developing the talent to our needs of the future? And I would say, as CEOs now say that 70% of the future economic driver is going to be their employees, it's now time to take stock and think about the future of our employees.
It's great advice. Thank you all for your insights.
Thank you.
For World at Work, I'm Allison Avalos.